What's going on, big dogs? Welcome back to another episode of Market Watch Mondays. As you can see, today I am not at the home studio. I'm actually out here right now in Canton, Ohio at the FF Expo. So it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but I still want to get something out to you guys. Haven't missed an episode yet, so not about to start. But, sorry for the sound quality. I don't have my mic. I couldn't bring all that shit with me. I had to fly fucking red eye from SFO. Out here, so it couldn't bring all that stuff with me. So my apologies on the sound quality this week, but just bear with me. I think I got a couple things I want to talk about this week, specifically just about some of the stuff that's been happening in preseason, some of the info that we're getting on some of our favorite rookies, and my opinions on kind of the outlook there. But before we get into anything else, man, y'all know what time it is. Hit that intro. All right, so it's been a fun weekend, man. It's been great coming out here. I'm really glad I came out, got to meet everyone, all the big dogs. Scott Fish, got to meet him. I got Steffi Smalls, Dave Kluge, Troy, just all the Dynasty nerds people. I was lucky enough to be invited to Dynasty Rich's house, where his wife put out the best charcuterie and cheese board spread I've ever seen in my life. And hopefully we can throw up a photo of this when it gets edited by Sexy Pass. But I'm telling you, no joke, this is the best thing ever. And Rich introduced me to this pepper-based jam. Dude, I was sitting there and fucking eating that shit all day long. From probably 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. I ate till I literally could not eat another bite. But it was fantastic. He was just a very gracious host by Rich. It was awesome. He had a nice place, pool in the back, pond behind the pool. It's a super, super dope time. Got to meet all the nerds guys. Got Jay Wack, Garrett Price, a lot of the new guys as well. So shout out to all you folks out there at Dynasty Nerds team. Got nothing but love for you guys, but also a lot of other great people out there as well. So it's been a great weekend, man. I can't list all the names of all the people that I met, but I'm happy that I got to meet a lot of them. I got to meet a couple Wolfpack members as well. They came up to introduce themselves. So shout out to you both. Thanks for coming out and hollering at your boy. But it was nice, man. I'm glad I got to come out here. It's my first time in Ohio. It's been a nice experience. Just getting to put faces to names and, faces and to Twitter handles of all the people that kind of work in the fantasy community. So it was a great time. I'm still here. I'll be flying out tomorrow. Gonna be actually hoping to grab dinner with some of the DTC homies, Izzy and Hurley over there. So it's gonna be a good time, man. But without more to talk about there, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the preseason, man. Football is back, man. Football is back, and I have a tough time getting too into preseason because I know a lot of it, is doesn't really matter as much for fantasy, but we haven't had this in a long time. So, people are reacting, people are overreacting, people are not reacting at all. And I just want to kind of break down some of the things that I've been seeing, some of the things that really do matter in my eyes. And one trend that we've seen this year, unfortunately, injuries hit every year, right? And you always see it every single year. But I think what's been particularly taking note for me this year is injuries have been hitting the rookie wide receivers a lot, and it's particularly my boy Rashad Bateman. Man, I really, really hated to see that because it was he was getting rave reviews coming out of camp, out of practice from some of the top cornerbacks that he's playing against on that Ravens squad, and it was clear to me that he was going to take that lead role. He was going to take that top dog role. So now we have a little bit of a setback because he's probably not going to be back until late September, and if we're being realistic, probably not going to be full health until maybe October because he's going to be out a few weeks. And that's harmful for a young wide receiver like Bateman because he needs to learn the playbook, he needs to get into training camps, he needs to get reps in. So I do think this is going to delay his progress. Now, am I worried for Dynasty? Not as much because, I still believe in the talent long term. He has a wide open road to getting targets in the long run. But I think what's going to happen is it's going to push his price down, right? Because you're not going to see him play. And whenever someone is out of mind, it means for the community and the market value and all that stuff, it's not going to be front of mind for them either. You're not going to be seeing Rashad Bateman highlights. You're not going to be seeing Rashad Bateman hype throughout the rest of the training camp. So because of that, his price and his cost to acquire relative to some of the other guys that are healthy is going to be much lower. So I already have a lot of Rashad Bateman, so it's very hard to acquire more. more, but I would imagine that he might kind of start falling into that like mid-second round pick range. And if you can get Rashad Bateman for second round pick or even add some more on top, I think that is an acquisition all day that you should be looking for. But he wasn't the only one that got injured, right? You got Elijah Moore, had a little bit of a scare there, another really great prospect, a favorite of mine. He was injured for a bit. Luckily, it seems like he's come out of it unscathed, and it's looking like he's going to be, that dude. He's lining up outside. That was one of the big concerns, whether or not he's going to be, pigeonholed into a slot role. Doesn't seem like that's the case. They do want to use multiple plays. So, but you just got to keep in mind, right? Like these little injuries, they might come back to hurt them later on in the season, but also it puts stunts a little bit in their development and their growth in the early stages of the training camp, which is like a really important time for some of these rookies to get acquainted with their teams, build chemistry with their quarterback, and for some of them try and usurp some of the veterans that are there. So I want you guys to keep in mind this particularly because 2020 was such a blow up class, right? We had so many studs in there, and I think that people are going to probably overreact when inevitably some of these rookies disappoint relative to the 2020 class. But when you look at it, as a whole and take a step back, it's not really going to be disappointing at all. It's just going to be more in line with what we expect from some of these rookie wide receivers. So I expect guys like Rashad Bateman to start off a little bit slow. I'm going to expect guys like Elijah Moore to even start off a little bit slow because they have been hurt and just kind of recovering for that time. And even guys like Jalen Waddle, right? Like he was playing, right? But like we know that he's coming off that big ankle injury. We know he tweaked it a little bit a couple weeks back in practice, I believe. So you just got to keep your expectations in line. Even Devontae Smith, right? He was kind of hurt for a little bit, but now he's kind of back in the rotation and practicing again. So there's just a lot of injuries for these top, not serious injuries with the exception of Rashad Bateman, but a lot of injuries for these top prospects. So we just got to keep that in mind and really keep your expectations in check and don't go on like an overreaction. Like if they don't start off and blow up in the first 3 weeks, don't panic, right? Because they're still prospect profiles that you believed in. They're prospect profiles that you've looked at all over the course of the offseason. The first couple of weeks is not going to make or break some of these guys. All right. So you got to make sure you stay patient with a lot of these folks and just really exercise your willpower and just not overreact and try and fade a lot of the noise. But it is disappointing. It's disappointing for me to see some of these guys get hurt because it will impact their early production. It means that for Dynasty, it won't matter as much because, we're looking for years of multiple years of progression. But for redraft, it's probably not a great idea to go that heavy into rookie wide receivers. And I know, like, if we look at historically speaking, like, especially over the last few years, it's been really skewed because you have DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, and last year was another monster class. But those are the outlier years, in my opinion. Like, those are not years you can expect. You're not going to expect that many guys to come up and blow up, right? Like, I'm not expecting to see a Justin Jefferson season again, like in the next decade even, right? So those are my expectations, and based on how the market is valuing a lot of these guys, that definitely does not seem like it's the market's actual expectation, right? So I'm saying all this to say simply to keep your expectations in line and do not make drastic changes and drastic valuation change on some of these rookie wide receivers based on what you see in the first couple of weeks. It's going to take time to develop, especially if they're coming off and not at 100% and just kind of trying to build that team chemistry, right? So don't panic on the wide receivers. Stick to your guns. If you like Devontae Smith, keep liking Devontae Smith. If you like Elijah Moore, keep liking Elijah Moore. But the one guy that did take the biggest ding and will probably take the biggest value ding is Rashad Bateman. And for me, it's going to be a acquisition opportunity. I'm going to start going out and trying firing trades if I can get Rashad Bateman for future second-round picks. And if I can, it's going to be beautiful because talent-wise, it's not going away. And it doesn't seem like this is like a career-threatening type of injury. It's not like a season-threatening injury even. But you do have to kind of build in the expectation that for probably a quarter of the season, maybe a third of the season, you're not going to get full Rashad Bateman. So his full season stat line is not going to be as impressive as it would have been, but the key to pay attention to is when he's back and when he's full health and when he's kind of become acclimated to the offense, a.k.a. I'm really going to be paying attention to the second half of the season. I'm not going to start pacing that out to 17 games or whatever, but I'm going to weight that second half of the season a lot more than I do the first half of the season just because of the time that he's missing, all right? And the other group I want to talk about is the rookie quarterbacks, right? This is one of the most talented, highly draft capital invested rookie quarterback classes ever, right? And we're seeing that translate into fantasy. You're seeing guys like Trey Lance and Justin Fields go in the first round of startups or at the early part of the second round at the latest, right? And that's a big risk people are taking, right? If we think back, The days of getting Lamar Jackson in the third round, I remember after his rookie year, I was getting Lamar Jackson in the third round everywhere. Every time he's in the third, I'm drafting him. But that type of cost advantage is now gone because people are willing to roll the dice on rookie guys that haven't even stepped on the field. Lamar Jackson was already a QB1 even as a rookie, but so the guys that haven't even stepped on the field, people are going in the first round. And I love Trey Lance. I love Justin Fields, right? But that's a very, very high cost, right? But what we saw from the preseason did help us kind of like warrant that, right? You saw the flashes of upside that Trey Lance possesses with his deep shot, right? You saw him be able to look off the safeties and go for the deep plays, but you also saw some mistakes, right? He's a developing young guy. This is a limited experience player from college, right? And when you don't have that much experience in college, you come to the NFL, it's going to be a bit tough. And even Justin Fields started off pretty slow, and then he blew up in once you're going against second string, third string, fourth string guys. And I always say, look, don't overreact, right? I tweeted out a joke about how I don't care about anyone else. When it's Justin Fields, I'm like, yo, this is the king, right? And it's because I love Justin Fields as a prospect. But again, we got to keep those expectations in line. But I did like what I saw from both those guys, all right? And then we had Trevor Lawrence, obviously. But I think the really interesting one is Zach Wilson, right? Zach Wilson is someone that I have been landing a lot of in my startup drafts, right? Why? Because he's going a full round behind Justin Fields and Trey Lance. And he was the second quarterback off the board. Was I the biggest Zach Wilson fan coming into the season? No. I thought Justin Fields was a lot better for fantasy because of his running ability. I thought Trey Lance was a lot better. But I don't think it warrants a whole round and a half discount, right? This feels a lot like Justin Herbert all over again, where I hate on Justin Herbert because I didn't focus. He wasn't a rushing quarterback, Konami quarterback for me, and he had struggled in his last year as his senior season. But Zach Wilson looked fucking good. All right, he looked pretty damn good out there on the field. He's making quick decisions. I think someone from PFF, Kevin from PFF, tweeted like it was a 2.5 seconds decision making for Zach Wilson, which means that he's processing the field quickly, he's making his reads quickly, and getting rid of the ball quickly. And that's very, very important in the NFL, especially if you're playing on a not so great team in the New York Jets. Even though they've made some improvements to the offensive line, that's still not a very, very good team. I do believe in the team long term, which is why I'm buying in on Zach Wilson. But being able to quick decision maker and process those reads really quickly is pretty important. That, in contrast to Justin Fields, who, if you guys remember, one of the biggest knocks against him is he held onto the ball a lot. And part of that is because he knows he has the rushing ability, so he's leveraging that, and he's trying to make big plays, which isn't a bad thing, but Justin Fields, I think, was at over like 4 seconds in terms of his speed and decision making. So he's a little bit slower. Part of that's because of the scrambling and all that stuff. But I really did like what I saw from Zach Wilson. And I've said before, I love how they built around him, right? They invest in the quarterback, they invested in the offensive line, and they gave him all the weapons, right? They gave him Elijah Moore, they gave him Corey Davis. They're not alpha studs yet, but it's a good squad to start with. They got Jameson Crowder in there as well. So and Denzel Mims, obviously. So he's got a lot of young talent around him that he can hopefully elevate and bring around. But I'm starting to love Zach Wilson more and more, and I've just been getting him a lot just based on his cost and where he's fallen relative to the other guys. He seems like my go-to, where he's like that cornerstone quarterback that I want to build around. That young guy, right? That young guy that I'll pair with like a Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, or what have you. But he's that guy that's going to be the cornerstone of my quarterback room, right? And I've been going to him again and again and again all offseason, and his price is just too good to pass up. So I wonder if that changes. It's probably going to change a lot as we close out this season. If you guys are still doing startups, it's going to make a difference. But Zach Wilson, man, he looked good. He got the draft capital. He's got the squad. All around, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of everything I've seen so far from these rookie quarterbacks. Again, it's training camp and it's preseason, so you don't want to overreact too much because they're not in full games yet. But so far from what we've seen, they've been pretty impressive. And the class is looking less like the Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen highly touted class, and more like a promising class. And we saw Justin Fields make a lot of plays with his legs, which we'd love to see, right? You saw Trey Lance able to do that as well. So it's going to be an exciting time for these young quarterbacks. But again, similar to wide receivers, we still got to exercise some patience. We cannot expect these guys to come out and just blow up immediately, right? Like if you remember, like even Kyler Murray, right? That was an incredible fantasy season. He was a top 10 quarterback. I'm not necessarily expecting that for most of these guys, right? If they hit that, great. But even if they get, in that like top 15 quarterback range, like top 20, that's still pretty good for rookie season, right? So I think, again, the whole mantra of the episode right now is I just want you to make sure you guys keep your wits about you, right? Stay patient. Do not overreact to a lot of the stuff that's happening in preseason. Usually, I take a couple weeks. I let the first month develop to kind of form my views, and then that's where I kind of start pivoting and doing stuff like that. So give it a couple weeks. Don't change after preseason. Don't change after 1 week. Just give it some time, right? Give these guys some time. These are the young guys that are going to be the future of the league, hopefully, at least so we hope. And you just want to give them time to develop, right? And I'm not trying to make any rash decisions of trading, but like I said, Rashad Bateman, if you can get that discount, which I think you can. I already thought he was at a discount, but now you can get the injury discount. A very talented player. You got to go out and grab him. And then lastly, Zach Wilson, man. Zach Wilson. I was not the biggest fan coming in the season, but just based on cost, based on what I've seen, he's definitely getting up there for me. All right, so sorry guys for the short episodes, but I just want to cover those couple of things and just make sure that I get an episode out for you guys. Next week I'll be back with probably another guest, one of my favorite people in the industry, Scott Connor, Charles Chill FFB on Twitter. I've been on his show a couple times, so he's a really, really bright guy, so I'm looking forward to that. And, again, if you like this episode, make sure you hit the thumbs up, right? Follow me on Twitter, at MikeMeUp with 2 Ps. And again, if you guys, Dynasty Degens out there, I met a couple of you out this weekend at the FF Expo, so thanks for meeting you guys again. But for those of you guys trying to get up on your Dynasty game and just become a dominant Dynasty player in all your leagues, make sure you go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/OurPack. That's patreon.com/OurPack. Join up the Wolf Pack. Get with us on Discord. Holler at your boy. Join up in the community. It's going to be a good time. I promise you. All right. That's all I got for you guys for this week. I'm out. Peace.